Hey everybody, this is part two of the winter landscape project, which is we're going to add in some nice small details in this one then also add some color into the sky using watercolor. And if you don't have watercolor, I have a trick that I'm going to show you about how to do it with markers. So there's a few supplies on my table that you don't see in view right now, but I'm going to bring them out as we need them. All right. In the document, I list out all the things that you're possibly going to need for this project in order to get it to really work. Now, if you don't have a watercolor tray, like I said, you can use markers for this. And there's a couple things that you might need in order to get it to work. And actually, it turned out pretty good. But I'm going to get started right away by adding in the small details that we need for this project, which are we're going to be adding some trees in the ground areas down here, larger ones at the bottom because this bottom area is closer to you. And as you go up to that horizon line, that is far away from you. So we want these trees to be smaller. Then as you go down the paper, they're going to get a little bit taller and a little bit taller until these ones here are as tall as we want to make them. We're also going to draw some lines for the back side of the mountains, the areas that are in shadow, and then also those those wavy jelly bean shapes that we drew as well. Then I'll talk to you guys about adding paint to your sky area up here. So let's get started with what I've got for this first part. I mentioned before you could use a colored pencil, nice and pointy tip for this one though. And then I was able to come across an ultra fine point Sharpie, very small. This is a brand new one. This is going to work well. And I found out that this Sharpie looks really nice and you can get a much, much smaller line than even a sharpened pencil. But either one will work, and I'll show you in my examples what they look like. All right, so let's get started. First thing I want to do is figure out where I want my trees. And all I'm going to do is just draw some lines going up for tree trunks. Now, the amount of trees that we want to put in here is probably around 12 to 14 trees. And almost half of them are going to be in this back line back here, which are going to be really short. So don't worry about filling up your space with too much. And as you can see in my example, I didn't. I left a lot of empty space. But I'm going to be using my colored pencil here to just draw tree trunks. So the tree trunks across the horizon line are very, very, very short. They are not tall at all. Okay, so I'm just going to start by putting a couple of lines in here, straight lines. Again, very short. I'm going to leave a little bit of space between them to make it look like that there's two trees instead of a group of them. So I'm going to put two there, spread them out, put one here. 1, 2, 3, pretty close. And maybe I'll just put one right here as well. So right along that back line, I've already hit the halfway point of how many trees I planned on putting in, which was about 14. So that's an easy way how to do that right there. Now as I come a little bit closer, my tree trunk lines are going to get a little bit taller. So I'm going to figure out where I want them. And as you're going to see, I'm going to start my tree trunk line on these wavy lines that we drew from part one. So I'm going to put one over here. And you can already see I drew it a bit taller than the other ones from the other side. From the back, from way back here by the horizon line. So there's two. Now I'm going to work coming forward just a little bit more. I'm going to put one over here. And it's a little bit taller. And I'm going to put one right here. Now, if you would like to, you can actually have it cross over those lines that you have, but don't make it too tall. And then I'm going to have one right here, starting at the bottom, crossing right over that spot. And then one more tree over here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm very close to what I planned. 12 to 14 is good. Now I'm not going to draw all the branches in for all these trees. It's going to take a bit too long. Instead, I'm going to show you how to draw them on a short, a medium, and a tall tree. And I'm going to do that by using the Sharpie. Okay? So when you're doing this, you have to know what a pine tree, the outline shape of it is. At the top of the pine tree, it's much, much skinnier. And actually, it kind of goes down and makes a triangle. It gets wider as you get down on both sides. So you're going to start out with short tally marks towards the top. Then as you get to the middle, they get a little bit longer and longer and longer and longer. And we want all the branches to go right down to the bottom of where the tree trunk started. So if I start with the short trees, this is actually going to be quite easy. Now, I am not very comfortable at drawing my lines side to side. I am way more comfortable in my hand and wrist drawing up and down. So I'm going to rotate my paper. This is going to be a little bit easier for me. You draw how you draw, that keeps it comfortable for you. Now, when I draw these lines, I don't want to keep them straight all the time. Now, for the short trees, it's going to be hard to show. When I get to the larger tree, you will be able to see it and understand. So here I start out with some short tally marks. And I'm drawing them so close that it almost looks like they're colored in. But it's skinny at the top, wider at the bottom of the tree. There's one tree. All right, maybe I'll just do one more very quickly here. Again, short little tally marks. Longer as you get towards the base of the tree. And there we go. So that looks like two trees really far away. Now I'm going to jump to one of these medium trees, then one of these and one of those. So here I go. Now these ones will be a little bit easier to see. Now as I'm drawing my lines, they are not perfectly straight. I am putting some at a slight angle this way, some of them are straight, and then some of them are going up at this. Just a little hint of an angle, just to reflect the natural look of some branches. Branches on trees do not just grow straight out. They grow in multiple directions, and we want to reflect that as well. Simple. And make sure that your tree branches actually touch your tree trunk too. There's an easy one. Now I've got a little bit taller one, so here I go. And my branches are going to go in different directions, and they can cross over a little bit. So you're almost going to get like this look of like a feather with these tree branches that you're drawing here. And then I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to get to the other side. So just tallies, do not color them in. Do not color in the tree branches. They should be single tally marks, one for each branch that's represented. And there we go. So it kind of looks like the tree, you can see through it and see the snow back behind it, and that's exactly what we want. So then I'm going to draw this one right here, this really tall one. This one might be quite a bit wider on the bottom than any of these because you have a much longer line to deal with. All right, so you might want to start out right here with some shorter lines if you wish. Now the nice thing, if you make the lines a little too short, you can always make them longer. If you make them too long and you don't like it, you're kind of stuck with it, even if you're drawing it with colored pencil, because you can't really erase the colored pencil, and you definitely can't erase the Sharpie marker. Now again, if you don't have a ultra fine point Sharpie like I have, you can just use a very sharp black colored pencil. It's just in order to keep that line nice and short and tight like this, very skinny, you're going to have to sharpen quite a bit, and that's okay. I had to sharpen a whole bunch for my colored pencil example as well. So it's not a big deal. So there's one side. I'm going to flip this and go this way. Maybe this. Nope, I better not, because I'm right-handed. If I go here and start there, I might actually smudge. So I better keep with the same method that I'm doing. All right. I don't want to lean my hand on there. I don't want to get Sharpie or the black colored pencil there. You can also notice too, I'm trying to hold my paper possibly away from the colored pencil and the Sharpie. I just want to try not to get too many fingerprints or smudges on this paper if I could. So some lines are going at an angle, some are going straight, some are crossing, some are going down. And if it looks like your tree is like this, you don't have enough branches in there. You don't want it to look like a comb. You want it to look like a feather. You want it to look soft and fuzzy, that if you were to reach your hand in there and touch those branches, it would feel soft and gentle, like you'd be scratching the top of a dog's head. You want it soft. You don't want it to look like a comb. So make sure you get some nice tight lines in there, close together, but not too close where it looks like you're coloring. You still want it to look like you're seeing through. All right? That takes care of the trees for what I'm demonstrating. Make sure you do this for all those trees as well. Now I'm going to get the shadows. We are not going to color in the shadows. We want something that is a little bit different, that gives a neat, unique look to these. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw lines in the shadows and in these jelly bean-like shapes. And I want it to match the direction of the back of the mountain. So I'm going to be drawing these lines, and you should too, at this angle like this. Okay? So I'm going to start with this one over here, and I'll show you. Now I'm going to try to match the same shape of this line right there and continue to draw inside of these. So here I go. There's one, and notice I left a little gap. You want to do the same. If you do not have an ultrafine Sharpie, when you do this with the black colored pencil, you might have to sharpen quite a bit because you do want to leave that space in there. So I'm going to take care of all the mountains first. So now I'm going to go to the next one. This space is not as large, so I'm not going to have as many lines. But you can see you do want them quite close, but just a little bit of space. This one has a little bit more room to it. Again, I'm going to follow the shape of this line as best as I can. And you draw until it stops, like right there. I can't draw anymore. This is the front of the mountain. This is the back. And one more. Then I got to get the jelly bean parts in there too. The jelly beans are those areas that are supposed to be like a snow-covered shadow or a rock or something like that where part of the snow is in a shadow. It's the same thing. I'm going to draw lines in it that follow that same angle on the back side of the mountain. These ones can be straight, and it's okay if you do that. Like for these, I try to match the shape of the edge of the mountain. For the beans, there is no edge of the mountain, so I'm just going to draw lines matching that same angle. And again, if you're going to use the black colored pencil, make sure you keep it to a nice sharp point as much as you possibly can. And there we go. That's the shadows of the mountains with those. Now, these almost look too smooth on the faces of the mountain. So what I'm just going to do is in some of these parts, I'm going to add these little other tally marks just to show that there might be slight bumps or shadowy areas, either of piled up snow or other rocks in the mountain. But not many at all. Just a few to give it the hint of more natural, like organic, bumpy look to it. Now again, I don't have my trees done, but I have everything else done up here. Now we get to talk about the painting, the watercolor painting. Now again, if you don't have watercolor paints, like I have here, I got my watercolor paint tray. I got the 16 color tray. If you don't have that, you can actually do this with marker as well. There's just a few things you're going to need. Obviously, you're going to need some sort of paintbrush. You're going to need a dish of water, nice clean water. Then you're going to need markers. Now, we want to make this like a purplish, turquoise, blue type sky. So I just grabbed violet, purple, and blue. I could grab turquoise if I wanted to, but I'm just going to stick with these colors to show you quickly about what they look like. Then I just grabbed a Ziploc bag, an old Ziploc bag, plastic bag. You want to use something for this part that when you draw with the marker, it doesn't soak in like a piece of paper. It rests on top of this. And a plastic bag is brilliant for this part. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. All right? So for right now, I'm going to move my picture out of the way. I'm going to do a little test first to show you the difference between them. And here I have an example to show you. One of these is marker, and one of these is watercolor paints. It's kind of hard to tell the difference. This is the watercolor paint, and that's the marker. I actually like the purple color in there compared to the purple color down here. And yes, you do want to kind of mix and flow your colors together. You're not doing stripes of purple and blue. You want your colors to kind of blend, and that's going to be an easy painting for us. All right, so let me show you how to be able to mix the marker if you want to get this to work. All right, so first things first is I'm going to take my plastic bag and keep it near me. This is just my practice, so you can see it. There's my plastic bag. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some marker, and I am just going to color on the top of the bag. Now, the marker isn't going to soak in, and that's perfect. That's exactly what we want to have happen. It's just resting there. Then I'm going to take my blue and color in some of the blue on the bag. There we go. Okay. Now I got my paintbrush ready. I'm going to move this out of the way just a little bit. Now what I tend to do for watercolor paint is I do not just scoop up the paint and go. I take a little bit of the water and put it down on my paper. The bad thing though is I can't see where the water's going. But that's okay. You will on your paper because you know it can only be above the mountains. So just take a little bit. I just paint. Now you can't see the water on there. That's fine. But you got to be quick when you do this. So I just painted some water on there. Now scoop up some of the paint or the marker here and just begin to paint. I'm going to rinse off my brush a little bit before I grab some of the blue. And you can blend these colors together. I'm going to leave a little hint of each color showing so I don't kind of overpower one or the other. I'm going to blend them together. Okay. And that is how you can make some very, very cheap watercolors. It's an excellent way how to do this. So if you don't have a classic watercolor tray, you can use this method. All right. Now I can show you little tips and tricks too about what to do with the watercolor tray if you want this nice light color. Same thing with the marker. I paint down a little bit of water. And then just a hint of color on my brush. All right, I start out with. Now that's not a lot, so I'm going to dip my brush in there and get some more. Now it's starting to show up. Let's see. All right, let's see if I can get some purple. Let's see, my purple is right there. Okay, oop, that didn't show up too much. Now I'll just get a little bit more. Ooh, there we go, nice and dark. That's a blue violet, I believe. That's what it's labeled in my tray. All right, now every color change that I want to do with my tray, I also want to rinse out my brush just a little bit. And let's pull some of the blue from up there. Oh, dark blue, regular blue, I should say. A little bit slightly different. There you go. And you want the colors to kind of blend together. That's what you want. So there's the difference. Watercolor paint tray, marker. You can use whatever that you want, even if you have both. If you're like, ooh, I like that, let me try that. Go right ahead. All right, so I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to bring back my picture. And now I'm going to paint the sky. Now when I paint this, though, I'm going to tip it upside down because I don't want anything to get down here by accident. I want the area I'm painting to be closer to me. So I'm going to do a little bit of both here. I'm going to bring my marker and my watercolor paint in here and just see what it looks like. Now I do not want to paint in the mountains. This is strictly only the sky. That's it. So you got to make sure that that thick black marker is your border. Don't get anything over here. So you're going to want to paint a little bit slower by the mountains. One of the first things I'm going to do though is I want to protect my table from getting paint on it. I just want to make it easier to clean up. So if you could snag a piece of paper towel, put it underneath your project like that, so that way when you're painting around the edges, it's a quick, easy cleanup. All right, so here I go. Paint some water. You got to be quick with this because this water might soak into your paper quite quickly like it does to mine. I'm going to pull some of my color from my marker. There we go. And you don't want big puddles of paint either. If you see a big dark spot, that is a puddle. You want to move that stuff around. All right, rinse off my brush just a little bit. Grab some of the purple, mix that in. I want to paint right to the edges of my paper too. Okay, and you can scatter your paint around as much as you feel. Now, there's not much happening here as far as my paint goes because I don't have any water there. Okay, and you can move this around. I'm going to pull some of the paint from my paint tray. Just a little bit. Okay, that blue didn't show up too much, and then just dip a little bit more. There we go. Now it's showing up. Okay, I like that. And again, just spread it around. You want your paints to mix. You do want them to mix to make like their own unique colors. Okay, you don't need anything to be absolutely perfect, but paint right to the edges. All right, now I'm going to go back in here and put some water where the valley of the mountains are. Again, be quick, be quick. This water is going to probably dry in a matter of a few seconds, so keep that there. All right, and I'm going to pull some, this, whatever color that turquoise color is right there. Ooh, nice, I like that. Now I'm going to go slow in the valley of the mountain right there. Paint right along the edge. Best as I can. Pull some of this color into the purple. There we go. Maybe this time I'll pull a little bit of regular blue instead of purple. Okay, ooh, I like that. And again, I'm going to pull some of that color up. As Bob Ross would say, make it a happy little sky. All right. Put some of that dark purples. Ooh, I just barely touched that dark purple and a bunch came off. All right, that's good. I like that. There we go. Let me put some of that. And I tend to paint side to side. All right. And then, let's see, what do I have over here? I'll take a little bit of the purple from my marker. And there we go. My valleys are all done. Finish this out. Check for any spots I may have missed. And put my paintbrush down. Flip this around so you can see it. And there we go. Now I strictly stuck with purples and blues for my sky. You could actually do this with reds and oranges and yellows to make it look like a sunset. I wanted a nighttime sky. I really wanted that because there was a technique I wanted to try with a different coloring supply to see if it would work. All right, but I'll show you that in just a moment. Stay inside, only your sky gets color. All right, everything else stays very simple. Now let me show you the one that I finished right here. I'm gonna move this one out of the way because it's a little wet. There's the one I finished earlier. I have all the trees done, and you can see the difference in the black colored pencil and the ultra fine Sharpie. So I still like these and I like those. It doesn't matter, you just take your pick. But same colors, same everything right there. Then I tried something a little different. I tried some chalk, like chalk, soft chalk that you would use like sidewalk chalk, except this is artistic chalk pastels. Like that, they're sticks. And what I did was I took a piece of paper. I took a piece of paper and just drew colored in a little sample of the colors I wanted to use. Then used a tissue, and I just wiped the tissue, and I used the tissue like a paintbrush and just started painting it like it was the sky. And then I put a green with a little bit of white on there to show like the northern lights. I don't think it turned out as well. I think it's because it's white paper. It would look much better if it was on a black sheet of paper, but such is life, it's okay. I tried something new and I learned from it, but this is the technique that you're gonna be doing for this. So I showed you guys how to do the trees, how to do the shadows, and how to paint the sky. So I'm really gonna hope that you guys can finish this one off. Check the step-by-step as well in the document if you wanna see my pictures, each step at a time. And again, I did a night sky, like a sun setting sky. If you want to do a sunrise where you instead of purples and blues, you use reds, oranges, and yellows, go ahead and give it a try. Let's see what you guys can come up with. I think this project is going to be a really cool one and one that you're going to be excited to do. So good luck, have fun, and I can't wait to see these.